She walked into his office 7 months pregnant. He hadn't seen her in 8 months. The divorce papers sat between them like a death sentence. But the baby, his baby, was the only thing he could see. He destroyed her once, pushed her away, told her she didn't belong in his world. Now she's back, stronger, richer, and she doesn't need him anymore. But he's never stopped needing her. And the child she's carrying, it's the only reason he has left to live. This is the story of a man who had everything and lost the only thing that mattered. The rain fell like judgment over the city. Inside the glass tower, everything was silent, cold, clean. Kang Minho sat at the head of a long black table, surrounded by men who would kill for him without question. His empire stretched across borders, invisible and untouchable. He didn't need to raise his voice. His silence was enough. But today, his silence felt different. Heavier. He glanced at the clock. 3:47 p.m. She was late. His attorney shuffled papers nervously. "Mr. Kang, if she doesn't show..." "She'll show," Minho said quietly. He didn't know why he was so sure. He hadn't seen her in 8 months, hadn't called, hadn't asked. He told himself it was better that way, cleaner. He told himself she was safer without him. But the truth sat in his chest like a stone. He missed her every single day. The door opened, and there she was. Amara stepped into the room, and the air shifted. She wore a long cream coat, belted at the waist. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. Her skin glowed under the fluorescent lights. She looked expensive, powerful, like she owned the world. But it wasn't her confidence that stopped his heart. It was her stomach. Round, full, unmistakable. 7 months pregnant. Minho's breath caught in his throat. His attorney stood. "Ms. Amara, please." "I'm here to sign," she said smoothly, her voice calm and clear. "Let's keep this simple." She didn't look at Minho. Not once. She walked to the table, set down her leather bag, and pulled out a gold pen. Her movements were elegant, unhurried, like she had all the time in the world. Minho couldn't move. He stared at her stomach, at the life growing inside her. His life. "Amara, Mr. Kang," she corrected, her tone polite but distant. "Let's keep this professional." His jaw tightened. The attorney slid the divorce papers across the table. Amara picked up the pen, flipped to the signature page, and signed her name in smooth, confident strokes. She didn't hesitate. She didn't cry. She just signed. And when she was done, she capped the pen, slid the papers back, and stood. "Thank you for your time," she said softly. She turned to leave. "Amara." His voice was low, rough. It stopped her mid-step. She didn't turn around. "Whose is it?" he asked. The question hung in the air like smoke. Amara tilted her head slightly, just enough for him to see the curve of her jaw, the slight smile on her lips. "Does it matter?" she said quietly. And she walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Minho sat frozen, his hands gripping the edge of the table so hard his knuckles turned white. His attorney cleared his throat. "Sir, the papers are signed. It's done." But Minho didn't hear him. All he could hear was the echo of her footsteps. All he could see was her stomach. 7 months. He did the math in his head. 8 months since he left her. 7 months pregnant. The timeline fit. The baby was his. And she didn't tell him. Minho didn't sleep that night. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse, watching the city lights blur through the rain. His whiskey sat untouched on the marble counter. He replayed the moment over and over. Her stomach, her calm, her smile. Does it matter? Of course it mattered. It was the only thing that mattered. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Find her," he said when the line connected. "I want to know where she lives, where she works, who she talks to. Everything." "Yes, sir." He hung up. 2 hours later, his phone buzzed. A message. A file. He opened it. Amara Okoro, 29 years old. CEO of Lumina Consulting, a boutique business strategy firm based in Manhattan. Estimated net worth, $8 million. No romantic relationships on record. No social media presence. Lives in a penthouse in Tribeca. Minho stared at the screen. $8 million. She built an empire in 8 months. Without him. He felt something twist in his chest. Pride, regret, and something darker. Something possessive. She didn't need him anymore. But that baby was his. The next morning, Minho sat in the back of his black SUV, parked across the street from Lumina Consulting. He watched the glass doors. At 9:15 a.m., she arrived. She stepped out of a sleek silver sedan, wearing a tailored navy dress that hugged her curves and her growing belly. She moved with grace, her heels clicking softly against the pavement. She looked radiant. Minho's chest tightened. He wanted to get out, to walk up to her, to demand answers, but he didn't. Instead, he watched her disappear inside. And he waited. That evening, Amara left the office at 7 p.m. She walked to a nearby cafe, ordered a decaf latte, and sat by the window with her laptop. Minho followed. He sat 3 tables away, hidden behind a newspaper he wasn't reading. She worked quietly, her fingers moving across the keyboard. Every so often, she placed a hand on her stomach, rubbing it absently. Minho's throat tightened. He wanted to touch her, to feel the baby move, to ask her why she never told him. But before he could move, her phone rang. She answered. "Hey, Mom." Her voice softened, warmed. Minho listened. "Yes, I'm eating," she said with a small laugh. "No, I'm not overdoing it. The doctor said everything's fine." A pause. I know you're worried, but I'm okay. Really?" Another pause. Longer this time. "No, Mom." "He's not involved, and he won't be." Minho's jaw clenched. Amara sighed softly. "Because he made his choice, and I made mine." She hung up. For a moment, she just sat there, staring at her laptop screen. Then she closed it, stood, and walked out. Minho didn't follow her this time. He sat in the cafe, staring at the empty chair where she'd been. He made his choice. She was right. He had. 8 months ago, he told her she didn't belong in his world, that loving him would destroy her, that she deserved better. He thought he was protecting her, but all he did was lose her. And now she was carrying his child, and he had no right to either of them. That night, Minho made a decision. He wasn't going to let her go. Not again. 3 days later, Amara received a delivery at her office, a bouquet of white peonies, her favorite. No card. She stared at the flowers for a long time, her hand resting on her belly. She knew who sent them. The next day, another delivery. This time, a box of imported chocolates from Belgium. Dark chocolate with sea salt, the kind she used to crave during late nights with him. Still no card. On the 3rd day, a handwritten letter arrived. She opened it slowly, her heart pounding. "Amara, I know I have no right to ask for anything. I know I hurt you in ways I can't take back, but I need to see you, not for me, for the baby. M." Amara folded the letter carefully and placed it in her desk drawer. She didn't reply. But the next evening, when she left her office, Minho was waiting. He stood beside a black car, hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. Amara stopped. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then she sighed and walked toward him. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly. "I know." "Then why are you?" Minho's gaze dropped to her stomach. "Because that's my child." Amara's jaw tightened. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." She looked away. "It doesn't matter. It's the only thing that matters." "No," she said firmly, meeting his eyes again. "What matters is that I'm giving this baby a stable, safe, loving life, and you—" She paused, her voice softening. "You can't give that. You know you can't." Minho stepped closer. "I can change." Amara let out a bitter laugh. "You said that before. This time is different." "Why? Because there's a baby now?" "Yes." His honesty surprised her. She searched his face, looking for the lie, the manipulation, the excuse, but all she saw was pain. "Minho," she whispered. "You live in a world I can't be part of. You said it yourself. I was wrong. Were you?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Or are you just afraid of losing something else?" He flinched. She wiped her eyes and stepped back. "I'm not doing this. I'm not letting you back in just because you're scared or guilty or— I love you." The words hung in the air between them. Amara froze. Minho took another step closer. "I never stopped. Not for a single day." Her lip trembled. "Then why did you leave?" Because I thought I was saving you. His voice cracked. I thought you'd be safer without me. Happier. I wasn't. I know. He reached out slowly, carefully, and placed his hand on her stomach. She didn't pull away. He felt the baby kick. His breath hitched. This is real, he whispered. This is ours. Amara closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. I can't go through this again, Minho. I can't. You won't have to, he said softly. Because I'm not leaving. Not this time. Not ever. She opened her eyes and looked at him. Really looked at him. And for the first time in 8 months, she saw the man she fell in love with. Not the mafia boss. Not the king of shadows. Just him. I need time, she whispered. I'll wait. She nodded slowly. Okay. He lowered his hand, but his eyes never left hers. Okay, he echoed. And for the first time in months, they both felt something they thought they'd lost forever. Hope. The following weeks were strange. Minho didn't push. He didn't demand. He didn't show up uninvited. But he was there. Every morning, a text. Good morning. How are you feeling? Every evening, another. Did you eat? Did you rest? Sometimes Amara replied. Sometimes she didn't. But she read every message. And slowly, so slowly she almost didn't notice, the wall around her heart began to crack. One Saturday morning, Amara woke to the sound of her doorbell. She padded to the door in her silk robe, her hand on her belly, and checked the peephole. Minho stood in the hallway, holding 2 large paper bags. She hesitated. Then she opened the door. What are you doing here? She asked softly. Bringing you breakfast, he said, lifting the bag slightly. I didn't know what you liked anymore, so I brought options. Amara raised an eyebrow. Options? Pancakes, waffles, fruit, eggs, yogurt, croissants, smoothies, Minho, and bagels, just in case. Despite herself, she smiled. It was small, fleeting, but it was there. Minho saw it, and something in his chest loosened. Can I come in? He asked quietly. She stepped aside. He walked into her penthouse, and for a moment, he just stood there, taking it in. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, soft neutral tones, plants by the window, books stacked neatly on the coffee table. It was beautiful, peaceful, nothing like his world. You built this, he said softly. I did. He turned to look at her. I'm proud of you. Amara's throat tightened. She looked away. Don't what? Don't say things like that. Why not? Because it makes it harder, she whispered. Minho set the bags down on the counter and walked toward her slowly. Harder to what? To keep my distance. But he stopped in front of her, close enough to touch but not touching. Then don't. She looked up at him, her eyes glistening. You broke me, Minho. I know. You told me I didn't belong, that loving you was dangerous, that I'd be better off without you. I know. And now you're here, asking me to let you back in, to trust you again. Her voice cracked. How do I do that? Minho reached out slowly and cupped her face in his hands. His touch was gentle, reverent. I don't know, he said honestly. I don't know how to fix what I broke. I don't know how to prove that I've changed, but I know this. He placed his hand on her belly. This baby deserves a father who fights for them, who chooses them every single day. And you, his voice broke. You deserve a man who loves you more than he loves his fear. Amara closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'm not asking you to forget, Minho whispered. I'm asking you to let me try. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then she opened her eyes and nodded. Okay, she whispered. They spent the morning together. Minho set up breakfast on her balcony, overlooking the city. They ate slowly, talking about small things, safe things, her favorite books, his terrible cooking skills, the baby's recent ultrasound. It felt normal, and that scared her more than anything. When's the next appointment? Minho asked, pouring her more orange juice. Next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Can I come? Amara hesitated. Minho saw it. I won't push if you're not ready, but I want to be there, for both of you. She studied his face, the sincerity in his eyes. Okay, she said softly. You can come. His entire face softened. Thank you. That night, after Minho left, Amara sat on her couch, one hand on her belly. The baby kicked. She smiled. Your dad's complicated, she whispered. But he's trying. And maybe that's enough. The baby kicked again, as if in agreement. The following Tuesday, Minho arrived at Amara's building at 9:30 a.m. sharp. He wore a simple black suit, no tie. His hair was neatly combed. He looked nervous. Amara smiled when she saw him. You're early. I didn't want to be late. They drove to the clinic in comfortable silence. When they arrived, the receptionist smiled warmly. Ms. Okoro, right on time. Amara checked in, and they were called back almost immediately. The ultrasound room was small and dimly lit. The technician was a kind woman in her 50s who greeted them with a warm smile. Dad's here today, she said brightly. Amara glanced at Minho. He didn't correct her. Neither did she. The technician applied gel to Amara's belly and moved the wand slowly, and then the sound of a heartbeat filled the room, strong, steady, perfect. Minho's breath caught. He stared at the screen, watching the tiny figure move. Arms, legs, a head, a beating heart. His child, his eyes filled with tears. Amara saw it. She reached out and took his hand. He squeezed it gently, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. Everything looks great, the technician said. Baby's measuring right on track, healthy and strong. Can we know the gender?
Wait, if you're married or in a relationship, this message is for you. Do you feel like he doesn't really see you anymore? Like no matter what you do, he's distant, distracted. Almost like you're strangers under the same roof? The more time passes, the colder it feels. The laughter, the closeness, it's fading. And deep down you're scared. Scared that the connection you once had is slipping away. But it doesn't have to be this way. There is a path to being noticed, to being desired, to feeling close again. Scan the QR code now and take the first step. Don't wait. This moment, it's yours if you act.
Minho asked quietly. The technician smiled. Would you like to? Amara looked at him. Do you? He nodded. It's a girl, the technician said softly. Minho's face crumpled. He lowered his head, his shoulders shaking. Amara sat up and wrapped her arms around him. He buried his face in her shoulder and cried. Not because he was sad, but because for the first time in his life, he had something worth protecting, something worth living for. A daughter. After the appointment, they sat in the car for a long time, neither of them speaking. Finally, Minho broke the silence. I'm leaving, he said quietly. Amara's heart stopped. What? The business, the empire, all of it. He turned to look at her. I'm walking away. Minho. I can't be that man anymore, he said firmly. Not for her. Not for you. I won't raise my daughter in that world. But your family will survive without me. His jaw tightened. I've already made arrangements. My brother will take over. I'm out. Amara stared at him, speechless. I know it doesn't erase what I did, he said softly. But I'm choosing you. Both of you. Every day. For the rest of my life. Amara's vision blurred with tears. I love you, Amara, he whispered. And I'm not losing you again. She leaned forward and kissed him. Softly. Slowly. Like coming home. When they pulled apart, she whispered, I love you too. The next 3 months were the hardest of Minho's life. Walking away from the empire wasn't as simple as signing papers. It meant untangling decades of loyalty, blood debts, and silent agreements. It meant facing men who had followed him into war and telling them he was done. Some understood. Most didn't. His uncle called him a coward. His brother called him selfish. His father, who had built the empire with blood and bone, called him a traitor. But Minho didn't care. Every time doubt crept in, he thought of Amara's hand in his, of his daughter's heartbeat on the ultrasound, of the life he wanted to build. And he kept walking away. Amara watched him through it all. She saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight he carried, the fear he tried to hide. But she also saw his resolve. He showed up every day, to her appointments, to her cravings at 2 a.m., to the quiet moments when she felt scared and overwhelmed. He was there. Always. One evening, as they sat on her couch assembling a crib, Amara asked the question she'd been afraid to ask. Do you regret it? Minho looked up from the instructions. Regret what? Leaving. Giving it all up. He set down the screwdriver and turned to face her fully. No, he said simply. Not for a second. But your family, you're my family, he said firmly. You and our daughter. That's it. That's all that matters. Amara's eyes filled with tears. He reached out and wiped them away gently. I wasted 8 months without you. I'm not wasting another second. She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. I'm scared, she whispered. Of what? That something will happen. That they'll come for you. That I'll lose you again. Minho wrapped his arms around her. You won't. I promise. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. He pulled back and looked into her eyes. Because I'd die before I let anything happen to you or our daughter. Amara believed him. 2 weeks later, everything changed. Amara was in her office when her assistant knocked on the door, looking pale. Ms. Okoro, there's someone here to see you. Who? He says his name is Kang Ji-hoon. Amara's blood ran cold. Minho's brother. She stood slowly. Send him in. Ji-hoon entered like a storm, tall, sharp-featured, with the same dark eyes as Minho but none of his warmth. He looked at her with cold appraisal. So you're the reason my brother abandoned his legacy, he said flatly. Amara straightened. I didn't ask him to. Didn't you? Ji-hoon stepped closer. You got pregnant. You played the victim. And now he's throwing away everything our father built. That's not... He's weak because of you. He's free because of me, Amara shot back. Ji-hoon's jaw tightened. You think you've saved him. But all you've done is make him a target. Every enemy we have now sees him as vulnerable. And they'll come for him. For you. For that baby. Amara's hand went to her belly instinctively. Ji-hoon saw it. His expression softened. Just slightly. I didn't come here to threaten you, he said quietly. I came to warn you. Minho thinks he can just walk away. But our world doesn't work like that. Then what do you want me to do? Convince him to come back, to take his place. It's the only way to keep all of you safe. Amara shook her head. I won't do that. Then you'll lose him. Maybe, she said softly. But at least I'll have tried to give him a life worth living. Ji-hoon stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I see why he loves you. He turned and walked toward the door. But before he left, he looked back. If you need help, he said quietly, call me. And then he was gone. That night, Amara told Minho everything. He listened in silence, his jaw tight. When she finished, he stood and walked to the window, staring out at the city. I should have known, he said quietly. Known what? That they wouldn't let me go that easily. Amara walked up behind him. Ji-hoon said you're in danger. I've always been in danger. But now we are too. Minho turned to face her, his expression fierce. No one is touching you, or our daughter. I don't care what I have to do. Minho, I'll end this, he said firmly. Once and for all. How? He cupped her face in his hands. Trust me. She searched his eyes. Then she nodded. Okay. Minho made one final call. Not to his brother, not to his father, to the council. The council was older than any single family. They were the unseen hand that governed the underworld. Judges, mediators, enforcers of ancient codes that predated nations. They existed in whispers and shadows, moving power like chess pieces across invisible boards. To request an audience was rare. To be granted one was rarer still. But Minho had leverage they couldn't ignore. 3 days after Amara told him about Ji-hoon's visit, Minho received a response. A single black envelope slipped under his door at dawn. Inside, embossed in silver ink, was a date, a time, and coordinates. No signature. None was needed. The meeting took place in a private estate in upstate New York, hidden deep in the mountains where cell signals died and roads turned to gravel. The estate was old, stone walls covered in ivy, windows like watchful eyes, gardens that had been tended for over a century, neutral ground, sacred ground. Minho arrived alone, no guards, no weapons, no armor. Just him, in a simple black suit, walking into the mouth of history. The doors opened without a sound. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of old wood and candle wax. A long hallway stretched before him, lined with portraits of men and women whose faces had been lost to time, but whose power still lingered in the walls. At the end of the hall, a set of double doors stood open. Minho walked through. The room was vast and dimly lit. A long table sat at the center, behind which 5 figures were seated in shadow. Their faces were obscured, but their presence was undeniable. Heavy, ancient, absolute. Minho stopped in the center of the room. The silence stretched. Then the eldest spoke. His voice was rough, like stone grinding against stone. Kang Minho, you have requested release from your bloodline obligations. I have, Minho said calmly. State your reasons. I choose a different life. One of the other figures leaned forward, a woman, her voice sharp and clear. You were born into this world. Your blood carries debts older than you. You cannot simply walk away. I can, Minho said. And I am. Your family will see this as betrayal, the eldest said. My family sees everything as betrayal. A third voice spoke, low, measured. What makes you believe you have the right to leave? Minho met the shadow's gaze without flinching. Because I have something more important to protect. Your empire? The woman asked, a hint of mockery in her tone. My daughter. The room went silent. Even the shadows seemed to pause. The eldest leaned back slowly. A child. Yes. And the mother. The woman I love. The woman I abandoned. The woman I'm choosing now, every day for the rest of my life. The fourth figure, who had not yet spoken, finally did. His voice was softer, almost kind. And you believe love is worth more than legacy? I know it is, Minho said without hesitation. The fifth figure, silent until now, laughed quietly. It was a dry, humorless sound. Foolish. Maybe, Minho agreed. But it's my choice. The eldest raised a hand, silencing the others. What do you offer in exchange for your freedom? Minho reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick folder. He walked forward and placed it on the table. Everything, he said. Every contact I've ever made, every route I've ever secured. Every account, every safe house, every shadow deal I've ever brokered. I'm giving you total transparency. My entire network, laid bare. The eldest opened the folder slowly. His eyes, dark and unreadable, scanned the contents. 1 page, 2, 5, 10. His expression didn't change, but something in the air shifted. This is substantial, he said finally. I know. Your family will be furious. Let them be. The woman leaned forward. Why should we trust you won't use this information against us later? Why should we believe you won't sell these secrets the moment you walk out that door? Minho looked at her directly. Because I don't care about power anymore. I don't care about territory or influence or fear. I care about my daughter. I care about the woman I love. I care about building a life where my child doesn't have to learn how to sleep with one eye open. That's it. That's all I want. The woman studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. The fourth figure spoke again. If we grant this, there are conditions. I understand. You will sever all ties. No contact with your family. No interference in council matters. You disappear completely. Agreed. And if your family retaliates? They won't, Minho said. Not if the council makes it clear that I'm under your protection. The eldest closed the folder and set it down carefully. Very well, he said. We accept your terms. You are released from all obligations. You and your family. He paused, the weight of the words settling over the room. Are under our protection. Any attempt on your lives will be considered an act of war against the council itself. Minho felt something inside him break open. Not with pain, with relief. Thank you, he said quietly. The eldest waved a hand. Go. Build your life. Forget this world. Minho turned to leave. But before he reached the door, the kind-voiced figure spoke one last time. Minho. He stopped. Your father built an empire of shadows. You're building one of light. That takes more courage than you know. Minho didn't turn around, but he nodded, and then he walked out. Into the sunlight. Into freedom. When Minho returned to the city, Amara was waiting. She sat on the couch in her penthouse, one hand on her belly, her eyes red from crying. The moment he walked through the door, she stood. Is it done? She whispered. It's done. She exhaled, her entire body sagging with relief. Minho crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. "We're free," he whispered into her hair. "All of us." Amara clung to him, tears soaking into his shirt. "I was so scared," she admitted. "I know. Me too." She pulled back and looked up at him. "What happens now?" Minho cupped her face in his hands. "Now we live." The next 3 months passed like a dream. Minho and Amara moved out of the city, into a quiet house in the suburbs of Connecticut. It was nothing like the cold glass towers and marble penthouses they'd known. It was warm, soft, full of light. The house had a wraparound porch, a big backyard with old oak trees, and a nursery painted the palest shade of cream. Minho spent his days transforming the space, building shelves, assembling furniture, planting a garden. His hands, which had once signed contracts in blood, now held hammers and paintbrushes. Amara watched him from the kitchen window, one hand on her growing belly, and smiled. He was different now. Lighter. At night, they lay in bed together, Minho's hand resting on her stomach, feeling their daughter kick. "What do you think she'll be like?" Amara asked one evening. "Strong," Minho said without hesitation. "Like you." "Stubborn?" "Like you." He laughed softly. "God help us." Amara turned to face him. "Are you happy?" Minho looked at her, really looked at her, at the woman who had saved him without even trying, at the life growing between them, at the future he'd never thought he deserved. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I really am." She kissed him softly. And in the darkness, with their daughter moving between them, they felt something neither of them had ever truly known. Peace. 2 weeks before Amara's due date, Minho woke at 3 a.m. to the sound of her crying. He sat up immediately. "What's wrong? Are you okay? Is it the baby?" "I'm scared," she whispered. He pulled her close. "Of what?" "Of everything. Of being a mom. Of doing it wrong. Of—" Her voice broke. "Of losing you." "You're not going to lose me." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." He tilted her face up gently. "I'm not going anywhere, Amara. Not ever again. I promise." "But what if something happens? What if—" "Then we'll face it together," he said firmly. "You, me, and our daughter. That's how this works now." Amara searched his eyes. Then she nodded slowly. "Okay." He kissed her forehead and held her until she fell back asleep. But he stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, making silent promises to the life growing inside her. "I will protect you. I will love you. I will be the father you deserve." On a quiet Sunday morning, 2 weeks later, Amara woke Minho at 5 a.m. "It's time," she said calmly. Minho shot out of bed like he'd been electrocuted. "Time? Time? Like baby time?" "Yes, Minho, baby time." Okay. Where's the bag? Where are my keys? Do we call someone? Should I—" Amara laughed despite the contraction. "Breathe." "I'm trying." "You're supposed to be the calm one." "I'm terrified." She reached out and took his hand. "So am I. But we're doing this together." The drive to the hospital was a blur. Minho gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. Amara breathed through contractions, her hand resting on her belly. "You're doing great," he said. "I haven't done anything yet," she pointed out. "You're about to bring our daughter into the world. That's everything." When they arrived, the nurses whisked Amara into a room. Minho followed, refusing to leave her side. The hours that followed were the longest of his life. He held her hand through every contraction, wiped her forehead with a cool cloth, whispered encouragement when she was too exhausted to speak. "I can't do this," she gasped at one point. "Yes, you can." "I can't." "You're the strongest person I know," he said fiercely. "You rebuilt your entire life from nothing. You forgave me when I didn't deserve it. You're about to bring our daughter into this world. You can do anything." Amara looked at him, tears streaming down her face, and she pushed. At 6:47 a.m., their daughter was born. The room filled with the sound of her cry, loud, strong, indignant. The doctor smiled. Healthy baby girl. Minho couldn't breathe. The nurse cleaned her quickly, then placed her in Amara's arms, and time stopped. She was perfect, tiny, wrinkled, beautiful beyond words. She had Amara's rich skin tone, Minho's dark eyes, and a head full of soft black curls. "Hi, baby." Amara whispered, her voice breaking. "We've been waiting for you." The baby blinked up at her, her little face scrunching. Minho reached out with a trembling hand and gently touched her cheek. She turned toward his finger, and something inside him shattered and rebuilt itself all at once. "She's perfect," he whispered. "She's ours," Amara said. Minho leaned down and kissed Amara's forehead, then pressed his lips to his daughter's tiny head. "I love you," he whispered to both of them. "So much." They named her Isla. It meant island, a safe place, a refuge. And that's exactly what she was. The first weeks of parenthood were chaos. Beautiful, exhausting, overwhelming chaos. Isla cried at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. Minho walked the halls with her, bouncing gently, singing soft Korean lullabies his mother had sung to him a lifetime ago. Amara pumped and fed and changed diapers on 2 hours of sleep. They took turns, they helped each other, they laughed through the exhaustion, and slowly, they found their rhythm. Minho learned how to swaddle, how to burp, how to recognize the difference between a hungry cry and a tired cry. Amara learned to ask for help, to rest when she needed to trust that Minho wouldn't disappear. And Isla, tiny perfect Isla, grew. One night, when Isla was 3 weeks old, Minho found Amara standing in the nursery, holding their daughter and crying. "Hey," he said softly, walking over. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," Amara whispered. "I'm just happy." Minho wrapped his arms around both of them. "Me too," he said. They stood there in the soft glow of the nightlight, the three of them swaying gently. A family, 6 months later. Isla had grown into a chubby, curious baby with the loudest laugh Minho had ever heard. She had Amara's smile, Minho's stubbornness, and an uncanny ability to charm everyone she met. Minho stood in the kitchen one Saturday morning, making pancakes while Amara fed Isla in her high chair. "She likes bananas now," Amara said, mashing one up. "She likes everything," Minho pointed out. "She gets that from you." "I wasn't a chubby baby." "You're a chubby adult," Minho gasped in mock offense. "I am not," Isla giggled, banana smeared across her face. They both turned to look at her, and they melted. "She's laughing at you," Amara said. "She's laughing with me," Minho corrected. "Sure she is." He walked over and kissed the top of Isla's head, then Amara's lips. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." Isla banged her hands on the high chair tray, demanding attention. Minho laughed. "And I love you most of all." That afternoon, they took Isla to the park. Minho pushed her in the baby swing while Amara took pictures, her smile so wide it hurt. "Higher, Daddy!" Isla squealed, even though she couldn't form full sentences yet. "She definitely just said daddy," Minho insisted. "She said ah," Amara corrected. "Potato. Potato." Amara laughed, shaking her head. Later, they sat on a blanket under the trees, Isla asleep in Minho's arms. Amara leaned against his shoulder. "Do you ever think about your old life?" she asked quietly. Minho looked down at Isla's sleeping face. "Sometimes." "Do you miss it?" "Not even a little." Amara tilted her head to look at him. "Really?" "Really." He kissed her temple. "That life was empty. This," he gestured around them, "this is everything." Amara smiled. And they sat there, in the quiet afternoon sunlight, just being. 1 year later. Isla took her first steps on a Tuesday morning in the living room. Minho was working from home. He'd started a consulting business, using his strategic mind in ways that didn't involve blood or fear. And Amara was folding laundry. Isla, who had been cruising along the couch, suddenly let go. She wobbled, teetered, then took 1 step, 2, 3, and fell into Minho's waiting arms. "She walked!" Minho shouted. Amara dropped the laundry and ran over. "Do it again, baby! Come to Mama!" Isla giggled and walked again, this time straight into Amara's arms. They cheered like she'd won the Olympics. And Isla, delighted by the attention, walked back and forth between them for the next 20 minutes. That night, after Isla was asleep, Minho and Amara sat on the back porch watching the stars. "She's growing up so fast," Amara said softly. "I know. It's terrifying. And beautiful." Amara looked at him. "You're a really good dad. You know that?" Minho's throat tightened. "I'm trying." "You're not trying. You are." He pulled her close and kissed her slowly. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For giving me this. For believing in me. For loving me when I didn't deserve it." Amara cupped his face in her hands. "You deserve it now." Years passed. Isla grew into a bright, fearless little girl with her mother's intelligence and her father's determination. She asked a million questions, climbed everything, loved books and bugs and painting. She had no idea who her father used to be, and Minho intended to keep it that way. One evening, when Isla was 5, she climbed into Minho's lap while he was reading. "Daddy?" "Yeah, sweetheart. What did you do before I was born?" Minho's heart stopped. He glanced at Amara, who was watching from the kitchen. She nodded slightly. Minho looked back at Isla. "I used to be someone else." "Like a superhero?" He smiled sadly. "No, not like a superhero." "Then what?" "Someone I'm not proud of." Isla frowned. "But you're a good daddy." "I try to be." "So what changed?" Minho kissed the top of her head. "You did. And your mama." Isla tilted her head, considering this. "That's it? That's everything." She wrinkled her nose. "You and Mama are so cheesy." Minho laughed. "We get that a lot." On Isla's 6th birthday, they threw a party in the backyard. Friends from school came, neighbors came, Amara's family came. Minho stood by the grill, flipping burgers, watching Isla run around with her friends. Amara walked up and slipped her hand into his. "Happy?" she asked. Minho looked at the scene before him, the laughter, the chaos, the joy. His daughter, his wife, his life. "Yeah," he said softly. "I really am." Amara leaned her head on his shoulder, and Minho realized something. He had spent his entire life building an empire of fear. But this was the empire that mattered. Not power, not control, but love. And family,
Wait,
and home.
before the video ends, listen.
The end.
If you've ever felt invisible, unnoticed, like the person you love doesn't really see you, this is for you. You can feel that closeness again, that spark, that connection, the way it used to be. But you have to take the first step. Scan the QR code now. Don't wait. Your chance to be seen, to be noticed, to be wanted. It's right here, right now.